Hello. This morning we'll be looking at the Bootstrap framework. And what is Bootstrap, first of all? It's a framework for front-end development, and we use it to make it easier to style our content. It has various predefined categories that can be quickly applied to content. For that reason, it's easy to use. It has responsive features that cause the content to adjust to phones and tablets, desktops, and very critically, it also has a mobile-first approach. So we'll dive into the code. I'm sharing my screen, and the first thing is to include the CSS in the sample page already present. I'm following the w3schools tutorial. So here we go. I'll copy this into my head section. And immediately after we've pasted in the CSS, the external style sheet, we see that there is a change to most of the font. There is a change to the H1. There is a change to the body font. Just without any other activity happening, without any other action being done. So that's one of the benefits of CSS, of Bootstrap, that being present is enough to give some benefits. We go on to create a jumbotron, and we'll do that for the first part of our page. And a jumbotron is a big box that indicates that for calling extra attention. So we want to call extra attention to the first part of our article here. And the first thing is to wrap it in a div. Now to put the closing So now that we have wrapped the content we want to create in a div, we'll go ahead and give it the class. And there you go. The jumbotron now has highlighted the first part of the article. The next thing we'll be looking at is a basic grid. And in terms of grids, Bootstrap grids contain up to 12 columns. And this means you can either have a total 12 columns or have some columns spanning more than one column, but the total should add up to 12. And for example, if I wanted to create columns for the first 3 sections, this is what I'm going to do in a moment. The first thing is to create a container, a div whose class will be container. I have to indent appropriately. And I'll also create another div which I will call a row, which will have a class row. Then we'll now go into styling the individual sections or the individual columns. Since I have three sections, this will translate to 4 columns each. That is 12 divided by 3, 4. So we go ahead creating another wrapping div for each of these. Indenting. Now the class depends on the kind of screen, whether it is medium or extra small or large. In this case, we can go for medium. And this is the format. Starts with the word call. And then in our case, medium. Then we put the number of columns, which in this case are 4 each. So we'll do that for the others. Also doing some indenting. I missed out some content here that needs to be in this div. So I'm making that correction. Then we'll go to create the final div for the last column. I'll also copy this just to save myself some typing. I need to try and see why it's not working. They should have appeared all on the same. Oh, there it goes. Once I change the size of the screen, all of them are put in on the same line, which is what would happen in a bigger screen. But once I reduce the size of the screen, they now are put in one line, which is one of the responsive features that you're looking for. And then briefly, we'll also be looking at the table, how to style tables with Bootstrap framework. And the first thing we need to do is to come and add the class. Remember, this is a predefined class that is present in the external style sheet. And by just doing that, you can see that the table changes drastically into one that has some default styling. We could experiment with striped rows. In this case, we basically change the name of the class. Doesn't appear to be working. Maybe it could be one of the features that requires JavaScript, which I haven't installed. Let's try with bordered. There you go. And maybe I should try to include other styles as well. So we now have a combination of table, bordered, and table. Maybe it would be a good thing to also try and see whether the table stripe will work when the table is present. Yes, and the striping is working well. In a future video, we'll see how to change the color of the stripes. And then finally, we could also say that we want to add an effect when you are hovering over a row. So we add the table hover class. And there we go. As I move my mouse, it is possible to see that it is hovering. That's all we had time for today. Next time, we'll be seeing how to style images and other elements using Bootstrap. Thank you.